Aloha, I'm Lyla Berg. Mahalo for tuning in to Island Focus. This is our 100th show, and you're going to love having an inside look at how we've created our program. You'll hear from the crew, you'll see our locations, and you'll also remember some of the leaders in our community who were our guests. Thank you for joining us today on Island Focus. Thank you for joining us today, Angela. You know, as the producer of this show, I know it means a lot to you too, but can you believe we're already at 100 shows?
No, 100 shows. Over the years, when you think about television and series, and sometimes they go for 13, sometimes they go for 23 or 22. And with Netflix, it's like just a special, one special, and we're at 100.
With 400 guests, easily.
Easily, as well as several locations all over the island. You know what I really think is really special is that over the years, and it has been years, this crew, the team, they've just gelled. They've really grown together, and it's been an amazing journey to be able to put out so many programs that mean a lot, not just to the community, but to the crew that creates them.
And what I particularly appreciate is I know they got my back. And from the perspective of excellence, there's also the energy of camaraderie.
Yes, and I hope we get to see that in this show, because what a lot of people do is they watch the show and they get to hear and see these leaders talk about what's happening on the island, and everything looks picture perfect, but it takes a lot to get to that perfection, and this team has done it for 100 shows.
And so if we were to summarize the general energy that was present, what would you use?
I would probably have to say the word to kind of focus on throughout this entire show is passion. Lots of passion.
Well, thank you for igniting that in us.
So, yeah, I really started off the same place we agreed everyone should probably start off, and that's just jockeying a camera. We kind of evolved from there, started to take a little bit more interest in the lighting, the scene, everything that's involved in the set. Pretty quickly, I think I really started doing more cinematography. And then as the show kind of evolved from there, started taking on more and more roles. Whenever I'm out there in the field, I often just kind of like to take a second and think back to my original mantra. I just like making pretty pictures. That's really what it's all about. And whether you're the camera operator or the producer, that's what you're doing. Our locations are really, really what bring so much production value into what we're doing. I mean, if we're in a beautiful valley up against the ko'olaus or at the fish pond, that really, really is all sparkly and shiny and amazing. It's pretty much my job to take those sparse and elegant set tools and showcase that location. We've been so lucky to get into so many great places, places that the public will never see. A lot of those stick out in my head as memories along the way. We did a shoot at the stadium where we really got to dig deep into Aloha Stadium and see all the kind of history, the different shows and sporting events that were there. And we got to walk in places that nobody gets to go to. Just such a great experience being there in that place, and afforded the opportunity that we were afforded to shoot there. I think really those are the things that really stand out to me. Whenever we're there, we're in that moment, and it all clicks together, that's the best ever.
As most people do when they come on to the crew, I started off on camera. So as things progressed, I moved into floor direction. location management, second assistant director, first assistant director. And there were times, especially in the last couple of seasons, where I was wearing all of those hats at one time. The pre-production phase, when we're planning and doing everything, it starts weeks in advance. Oftentimes we're looking at dates to shoot and locations to shoot, sometimes 10 to 12 months in advance of when we're actually go out to do it. Maybe about the 60-day mark, where we'll do a site survey, where we go out to where we want to shoot and we meet with our partners that normally control the location. Well, you know, you often think of the times where things didn't go as planned. There was an episode where we shot at the Downtown Arts Center where Keiko and I got trapped in the parking lot for 45 minutes. There was the episode when we were at the fish ponds over on the other side of the island, and we're out there kind of on the end of this inlet, and there's turtles swimming in the inlet next to us, and there's marine planes landing over the top of us. And then you look across the bay and you're like, that looks like rain. And then before you can even finish the word rain, you're getting poured on because it really was rain. So it's those little moments that happen that break up the day, but also energize the crew in the fact that they give us these experiences that so many other people don't have. It's been a great experience bonding on a professional level like that.
Aloha, I'm Lyla Berg, and we're at the Hawaii State Library, here at Kauai Ha'o Church, here at Bishop Museum. We're here at the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii. We're here at the University of Hawaii Richardson Law School.
We like to think that it's a place, it's a gathering place that people can come and meet others, use their resources, do their research. Part of our mission for people to love reading and learning, and so we hope people come to the library to do that.
And what they did is they went out to West Beach and even as far as Waianae to mine coral. Each block is 1,000 pounds, wow. And there are 14,000 of them that make up our church.
It was an unjust incarceration of the internees. They were arrested on suspicion only. Not a single Japanese was convicted of crimes of espionage or sabotage during World War II.
And what we see on the walls here is some poetry, you said, some statements of how people felt while they were in the camp.
Yes, internees were very stoic outwardly, but they released their feelings through poetry.
So we are a face-to-face law school. As you can see, there are a lot of places for people to sit and to talk and to enjoy themselves and relax. But then someone up there might say, wait a minute, where's that paper I was expecting? So we get to know each other very well.
Beautiful bed that's in here is a koa bed. It belonged to Queen Emma. This is her childhood bed. She slept in this bed all the way until she grew up to marry Alexander and leave Rook House, where she was raised by her father, Dr. Rook, and her aunt, Grace.
It was constructed in 1900. It was opened to the public in 1903 after the entire interior was finished. And we like to think that this is our largest collection, artifact, or object because it's an irreplaceable, unique, historic building.
What was here before was just a piece of land. But when Momi was here, there was water that was coming out of the hillside and said, why not turn it into a lo'i? Oh. With Momi, everything's possible. Yeah. And so the conditions were not at its best, but like our ancestors did, is that you don't complain about it, you make it work.
You can feel, the presence of the fans when they're here.
This is meant to be multi-purpose so that it would open up.
Yes.
How would that work?
You can still actually see it on the 50-yard line. It used to split open.
Lyla, I could talk for hours about everything that happened in that 22-minute event because everything was filled with symbolism and meaning. But this is one of the primary reasons why people come and visit the ship. The event that occurred on that day really changed the character of this ship because this ship became from being an instrument of war to a symbol of peace.
So the Chinese were the first immigrant group to come to Hawaii. About 1850, about 46,000 of them came to Hawaii to work in the sugar plantation.
And did they come with their families? Or?
No, most of them were men and single men. And their purpose to come here was to make money to go home, hopefully rich.
This is like Frankenstein's laboratory with all the bubbles and tanks, This is a new area we built about 2 years ago, and it's our live feeds area. So here is where we produce food items for the animals on exhibit, the corals and the fishes to eat. So we've got different types of algae, different types of animals called rotifers, like little zooplankton.
So esports consists of competitive gaming, and so it's basically multiplayer video games on a competitive level. And it's also leading the charge for the next generation to really come up and to grow in the technology field, right?
This is quite an amazing setup.
Thank you, thank you.
These are ever-changing mountains. People come to enjoy them, the mists, maybe some blue skies, and maybe lots of waterfalls right after a heavy rain.
You know, when we look here at the ridges, it's hard to believe that there would be water coming down, but how romantic, how poetic.
They will grow up with the rail as an option. They won't think about it. They won't think, I want to go to Ala Moana, I got to drive, I got to catch the number, whatever bus. It's going to be, I go to the train station, I ride to Ala Moana. It'll just be as natural as for us hopping in our car.
An option.
An option.
So there have been many. Probably the number one everybody will say is the Elvis concert. Aloha from Hawaii.
So that's why the statue is put here to remind us, right?
Right, to remind us of what happened here. So that concert was shot live by satellite around the world. 40 countries saw it live or the next day,
right?
Except for the United States, which saw it in April because it was shot on the same day as Super Bowl VII.
And as I look at the photographs behind us, the fire department was started a long time ago.
It was founded in 1851 by King Kamehameha III via city charter. And the king had a heart for his people. And he wanted a modern fire department that was organized and efficient, that could respond to the needs of the community.
This is our invertebrate laboratory. And we've set up an invertebrate program in conjunction with DLNR, the Department of Land and Natural Resources. And we're working with them currently on one species of snail and the Kamehameha butterfly.
Which is what you have in your hand, almost.
Almost.
It is a wall structure that separates the pond from the bay, Kaneohe Bay. It's been here in various forms for the last 400 years. So we have been engaged in a very proactive wall reconstruction of the wall over the last 2 years.
Currently we're backstage where our hatchlings are held until they grow to a different larger size before they ever get to meet the public. Currently we have our 2019s that were born here at the park from our adults.
This is what we call the Queen's dining room. However, the room was built after the Queen lived here. It was built by the territorial governors. And this is where the governors will hold their official state dinners. And we've had several here.
I mean, when you think about what does a wing do on a plane, this is going to teach you that. So it's all the ways that you control and you manage flight.
Whoa! Standing in front of this statue is significant.
This statue is entitled Nana Ike Kumu by Michael Weidenbach. We got it in 1995 through the Commission on Culture and the Arts, and I think it's really significant for us to be here and for it to be placed here. Because if you think about the words Nana Ike Kumu, look to the source, look to sort of your reason for being, that really is what should drive us here at Honolulu Hale, is what is the reason, and for us, it's the people that we serve.
So this really lays out what the submarine force did after December 7th, 1941. Our submarine base and the submarines here at Pearl Harbor were undamaged. And so by the end of the year, we started making war patrols in the Pacific. So our submarine force really took the fight to the Japanese at the beginning of the war while the surface Navy recovered from the attack here.
The artist was, Claude Monet was at the end of his life and looking at his Japanese garden in France when he painted this. He was thinking about how the audience receives that. How, when you back away from it, do these globs of paint become a really solid image? And here at the museum, we also want to engage our audience, have them see things that they recognize or identify with, and then have memorable experiences and conversations with their friends and family while they're here.
Lady Columbia represents all the mothers around the world
that have lost sons or daughters during battle. And if you look at the inscription on it, the solemn pride that must be yours to have laid so costly a sacrifice upon the altar of freedom.
So Lyla, when you see the crew buzzing around you before, during, and after these programs when we're shooting, what impression does that make for you?
Well, aside from getting excited, I'm so impressed. You know, the multiple cameras, the technical excellence of the crew's ability to watch all the details. You know, guests have even remarked how surprised they were to come on set and see lights and camera and action.
I think that is one of the things that surprises people when they come on the set of Island Focus, is just the level of production. Ōlelo is a organization that helps community members learn how to produce programs. But when we as a staff or as a crew that's mostly made of staff go out there and shoot, we try and elevate it so that not only do we teach people who are part of the crew to elevate their skills, but also for the guests who experience it, they get to experience a real professional set.
And that's really the word that I would use too, professional. So when the guests come on and we're talking, if something is not right, sound-wise or visually, someone in the crew will say something. And so I love the interdependence, that they rely and trust each other.
Yep, and everyone knows their job.
I would say I have the very important role of being the comic relief. So yeah, no, actually I do camera and sometimes jib. I've grown a lot during the process, so I actually learned how to do a jib, like be a jib operator on Island Focus. So we're shooting with multiple cameras, usually 4. Nowadays I think it's 5 because we added the slider. And then we all have to set up our cameras, make sure that they're all in the right settings. There's a lot of care that goes into, you know, you go white balance, you black balance. That's super important because if you're shooting in a place like the Palace, there's all these old colors, and then you have, you know, wardrobes. Lyla never wears dull colors, so she's always got something really fun and flashy on. The jib is the most exciting part actually to me. So it's just really cool because you set up this massive arm and it makes such beautiful shots. My favorite for aesthetic purposes, when we did the USS Missouri, and that was way back in the day. And we're on this huge ship right there in Pearl Harbor, and I lived on the mainland my entire life. So I always wanted to see Pearl Harbor. I mean, I was on that ship, the USS Missouri. And not only am I here on this ship that I've seen on TV, I've seen all these, you've heard about my whole life, I'm actually making television on this ship, doing this interview, and it was just a very cool experience. Humbling, like you just never know where life's gonna take you.
So for the latter part of Island Focus, I provided audio on every shoot. I'll grab my audio kit, it's all in a bag so that I can carry it around everywhere. When everything's ready, I come over and I talk to Lyla, I get everyone mic'd up, and I listen to them talk for 5 minutes every segment. And Lyla's really nice because she always asks for my opinion. Did I say that right? Alex, what does Alex think? Is Alex back there? Where's Alex? I always appreciated that about Lyla. It's important listening for the right message and making sure that your guests come off, you know, genuine. I try to make sure that I understand them on a personal level. And if I can understand them, then I let it run past. But there are times when I'll need to ask someone to, you know, can you say that one more time? I just didn't quite get it. But it's important to get those important sound bites, and it's important to shoot and listen for the editor so that they have everything they need to put it all together. For several of our locations, we shoot outdoors, and it necessitates a large piece of equipment called our silk. Kind of helps balance our shadows, or our natural shadows from our natural light, which is, on those days, it's the sun. It gets a little tough when you're out in the elements and when you're out on the Loko'ia. We're at the mercy of the wind, or we were at Sea Life Park, and the silk nearly blew away over into Kalaniana Ole Highway. That was just one moment that really scared us, but we all just ran after the silk as it was blowing away almost to the highway. We all just dropped our lunch on the floor and gave chase and just made sure that it didn't ruin the shoot, much less the highway or Sea Life Park's interior.
A set photographer is the person that, for one, takes what I call the social media picture. They had their interview, and I see Lyla, the host, and the guest together, and they're looking at the camera. Very posed, very, very nice. Shows the logo of the show, and you know what this is. Beyond that, it's behind the scenes, and as you know, it's all about what makes a show. You only see the front end. Now you see the back end. You see where the cameras are positioned. You see the amount of equipment. You see people tuning things, looking at things, coordinating with each other. The silent efforts, if you will, that people don't regularly see unless they are behind the camera with me. I use a full frame camera. I have a Canon 5D Mark III. I look at what is a little bit unusual, something that the ordinary viewer does not see. There's a certain artistry in everything that people do in this, whether it's the motion of moving cable, the quantity, the scale. So we're looking at the different things that they do, and then looking at it at a macro level that says, look at all this equipment together, this choreography of people doing these little things here and there. Is just capturing that little snapshot of excitement. And that's really what I kind of look for. One of my favorite moments is the Christmas shoot. I got a chance to photograph governors. Now, that's a really big responsibility. And the couple that I remember most was Governor Ariyoshi. He's on in years, but just to see them together was almost like seeing a high school couple. They were so much in love, and you could just feel it. It was my job to try to capture that so that everybody else can feel that moment.
In the first season that I was on there, I am Lyla's camera person. And she was having problems. When she gets nervous and she gets locked up like that, she just starts talking a lot. And then she's tightened up and it makes it even worse. And I just had this instinct that I'm just gonna talk directly at her and see what she does. And so I just yelled, "Berg, what are you doing? Say it." She did it, spit it all out, and it all flowed out perfectly fine. And then she just looked at me sideways and came up to me afterwards and said to me, "You know, no one's ever talked to me like that before. And thank you for doing that." And it's from that moment that she and I had a relationship. Down. All right, there we go. He's telling me where to put it. Why? It's such great material.
We grew up in the same neighborhood. Come on.
Oh, geez.
Seriously.
Here we go.
Kahala.
The mean streets of Kahala.
And he's not recruiting for a no host because he knows you already have a profession.
Exactly. We're holding open auditions.
Yeah.
So, how's 10 a.m. for you?
Yeah, you'll have to wait till after the next 6 to 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And you'll see what a mistake you're making.
Well, thank you for being with us today, and we'll look forward to hearing more about space.
Thank you, ma'am.
Did you get the thank you, ma'am? Okay, good, good. I'm too young to be a ma'am. Cut it. Okay, Chase, cut the ma'am. Can he see? Oh, you can see my phone? Can't see my feet, right? I don't have my shoes on.
Sorry.
Can you see my feet? I don't have my shoes on.
No.
Okay, good. Okay. This is a new technology we're trying. This camera.
Is it? Is it working all right?
Shall I hold it?
I was thinking about that. No, I'm just kidding.
One of my programs, I held an eagle, you know, and I did voices and wings for the kids.
Wow.
This is so cheesy.
Scary.
Yeah, not a real one.
Oh, okay.
We're just gonna, actually, we're already.
Good.
Were you good? We're happy with that? All right.
5 seconds, I'm like staring at each other like, this is awkward.
You have canoes and you have.
I know. Can we start that over again? I just lost it. Okay, take 20. Let's try it again. Okay.
We'll actually get our fish that we have here at the park from the mainland. And that's why.
Keep going.
We're gonna. Okay. I'm so sorry.
We asked the city if we could take this empty office space.
You know what? I'm sorry. That sound over there.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have to do it one more.
That's pretty astounding. You know, it's just pretty astounding. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to need to take just that ending part.
Yeah, because the machine.
Sorry about that.
Essentially start in this area. So we were able to hold maybe 3 to.
Guess what?
We got to do it again.
That one again.
Could you turn it off?
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Just had the opportunity to meet Coach Aaron Ganat, who is with the men's basketball program at the University of Hawaii. Thank you for joining us. That was easy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
First name might need some work.
Did I mess it up?
Aran.
Aran. But we need to do the
Or I could change my name.
No.
Whatever is easier for you guys.
I know you, Aaron. Go ahead. You're dressed correctly. You're dressed in black. It's perfect. He's always behind the scenes, you know. It's a perfect shirt. I love it.
Oh, that's perfect.
You know what I really find amazing is every time we have a guest come on set and they meet you, Lyla, they're just like, hey, Lyla, how's it going? What you been doing lately? Everyone knows everyone. Yet we're trying to tell stories that a lot of the community members don't know about, like what people are doing, what effects leaders have in the community. I mean, how do you feel about that, being that you're the host of the show and you're constantly pulling these stories out of people who guest on our show?
I'm very touched. I'm very touched. I'm excited. And I'm also very grateful for the opportunity to give those leaders a voice and a forum. Growing up here in Hawaii, we all know each other in some capacity. And I think that that's what's really important to remember, so that we're not on different sides of the line. We may disagree with certain concepts, but we're all in this together for Hawaii. And when I see the guest here, we seem to forget whatever past we may have had as we remember our past. And I think what's really important about our program is, yes, we do show the leaders and what they're doing now, but they talk about themselves. And so we get to glimpse that true leadership is about being compassionate and human and real, authentic.
Absolutely. And you know what I love? It's kind of like a signature question that you tag on at the very end. You always ask your guests, what's your joy? I love that. It's not just, what have you done for the community? It's really about connecting with the person. And that kind of reflects on you, Lyla. Is that something that you like to hear from the guests?
Absolutely, because you know, at the end of the day, all the work we've done and the contributions we wanted to make really are not as significant as who we are as people, as community people, as people of Hawaii. And true leadership, as we've seen from the guests on all of our programs, indicates that they have that mana'o, they have that aloha for the community and their organization. So I'm always very grateful that they're willing to come on our show.
So my role is basically, as a makeup artist, I'm the first one to see people. And I think that's kind of cool because sometimes I recognize these people and sometimes I don't. But I enjoy hearing their story. So with Island Focus, I think it's wonderful because we get people from all walks of life and they get to share something about themselves or their organization. And it's something they probably wouldn't have had that opportunity if it wasn't for this show. When we went to the art museum, you know, I mean, because my daughter, you know, she's into art, and I'm like, you know, I didn't know they had this kind of a job, or, you know, and she's like, really? I go, you should look her up, you know, I mean, stuff like that, you know, and I'll tell people like, oh yeah, you know, do you know that they have this and that person does that? And they're like, really? And so the people that we meet and the stories that we hear, you know, it happens for a reason. I think being on Ō'lelo's set, everyone on the crew, you know, was very professional. Everyone acted or treated each other like family, and that made me feel comfortable. You know, I enjoyed working with Lyla. I would look forward to seeing her because just our little talks together was fun. You know, because she was the type of person where no matter who you are, I think she has that gift to just bring things out of you. And I think that showed with everyone on the crew. I noticed that she would thank people at the end, you know, and not everyone does that. You know, sometimes people forget, you know, just the little things, a little thank you means a whole lot.
As a community relations manager here at Ōlelo Community Media, my role at Island Focus is to invite our guests in and make them feel welcome and give them a little bit of an idea on what to expect on the set and to just make them feel comfortable. And then I give them a briefing on what we do at Ō'lelo and how, you know, I would love to engage with them after the show is done. When I see a guest share their story on Island Focus, it just makes me so proud that here we are at Ō'lelo, that we're showing our community what that organization does for our community. And it makes me feel really, really proud that the stories that our community leaders share are ones that, you know, we can take to heart. There's so many favorite moments that I've had, but one that comes to mind recently was when we were at the Punch Bowl Cemetery and we interviewed the different veteran organizations and we interviewed the Korean veteran president. What he shared was that this is going to be his last year, and the reality is this is going to be the Korean Veterans Association's last year as well, because many of their members are no longer with us. I really appreciated his commitment to serve his fellow vets and to serve the community in that way, and I really was inspired by his kindness and by his joy for life.
How did you get involved with this particular organization? Because you had quite an interesting career path.
Yes, I started off as a lawyer and I didn't think that I'd ever be the head of the Red Cross. And then somebody approached me about this position and I just fell in love with the mission.
I think there's a real need for us to come out and show people what the rule of law means. And you know, probably the most gratifying thing when we've gone to high schools is when we hear comments from students who basically say, you know, wow, that was really rigorous. The questions you asked of both sides were really tough. And I think they see that it's a process that has integrity and it's fair. And that's probably the most important lesson we can share with our young people about the judiciary.
It's an incredible opportunity, and kind of like in anything in life, you talk about what's your why for doing something. And in Hawaii, we're unique to any other school in the country where we're kind of it here for Division I sports here. So we're not just playing for your teammates, for your school, but also for the whole state.
So Make-A-Wish, our mission is to grant life-changing wishes for children who have critical illnesses. So we've been doing that in Hawaii for more than 35 years. We have a staff of about 25 people, 700 volunteers. I feel like it's the best job in the world. Imagine creating life-changing wishes for children.
The community is our mission. We're here to serve the communities that surround this college, and all of the decisions that we make, we really have to think with that in mind. How are we supporting and growing and nurturing our Windward communities?
What makes a perfect firefighter, if there is any perfect firefighter? I've been in 40 years and I'm still trying to be the perfect firefighter, but I'm struggling with that. But I think it's, the old axiom of mind, body, and spirit.
How would you encourage people to let their natural creativity come forward?
For me, I think you just totally deconstruct the rules. I hate rules in general, which makes it very ironic that I'm lieutenant governor.
And a doctor.
Yes, I really don't like those rules. I like to try to be creative. As you know, there has to be creative thoughts to heal and to find a plan for somebody when they're ill. But creativity is breaking loose from the chains of traditional thought.
Foremost, I would tell you that the highlight for me is I've never sensed a feeling of responsibility like I do now. This is a lot different than just driving profitability for privately owned, even publicly traded companies, or news ratings, or all of those things. I'm certainly not denigrating any of that. But when I think in terms of the mayor's office and all that we're responsible for, and what's at stake for so many people, it's incredible,
When I was a journalist, there were so many times that I was literally fighting not to be even censored on our station. Fear of losing advertising. Oh my gosh, that's a sponsor. We can't do that story. Then I'm in the wrong business. I went to war sometimes with management, and even threatening walking out on the job. Not that I was all that, but understanding that was my kuleana, that was my role.
The climate's changing. There have to be ways to deal with it. We can either be a victim and complain about it, or we can try to think through how to do something. So everybody wins. You have to really think about not just humans as well, but what are we doing to the ecosystem, so that we're not losing the environment that we love that makes Hawaii so special.
The Hawaii National Guard has a dual mission or a dual role. We have a federal mission in which we work for the President of the United States when called upon, and we have military units that then can be deployed. We also have a state mission, which makes us kind of unique with the Reserve Component Force, in that we also work for the governor of the state of Hawaii.
This place made it possible for me to have many meetings with the legislators. But we had an opportunity to talk about Hawaii, and that to me is so important. So that opportunity made it possible for us to talk and for us to try to implement the things that we felt very strong about.
Truly, when I have the opportunity to speak with Governor Ariyoshi or Governor Waihe, and they tell the stories of what important decisions were made in the breakfast nook, and having convenings of different leaders in our community to talk about tough issues. A lot of the most difficult decisions are not made in formal settings. It really is about sharing a meal and having a conversation that helps us have these breakthroughs.
There's a lot more that goes into the production of this show than actually meets the eye.
There really is, Lyla. There's something called post-production, which is the process in production at the very end when you take all the elements, like the interviews that we shoot at location, as well as photos and maybe something we call B-roll, but it's just a video that a guest might provide to us. And then all of those elements get cut together in a dark room somewhere with an editing machine. And it creates this wonderful, wonderful program that's really interesting to a viewer. So what's really amazing about Island Focus is that the viewer doesn't see what happens in the back end when it comes to distributing this message. We not only produce a 30-minute show, but we also take that 30-minute show and take the interview segments and separate them so that a guest can actually post it on their website, put it on social media, just get that message out there, because that's the key to what Island Focus is about, is helping a leader in the community share that message out to the community.
Well, and I think our guests also were very surprised at the quality of our show in the final analysis. Our editors are stupendous.
They are, they're amazing. And what they do is magical, because what happens is this very basic interview that happens on a location, once embellished with all of those visuals, it just makes the message so much clearer and easier to comprehend. And so the viewer can just kind of let go and watch and learn, but also see what's going on with one of those guests and what they're doing in the community.
My name is Chase Yamauchi. I am one of the video editors for Island Focus. Editing Island Focus requires a lot of being able to understand what our guests are talking about and telling their story how they would want to project it to the world, which is always like it's a very fun and just interesting little puzzle to put together. I like to take the important points and try to really just highlight what makes them very unique and special. Around 2021, we had to put together Island Focus completely remotely, which was very interesting to sort of walk into. I thought it was just very special that we were able to still deliver people's stories to our audience and, you know, be able to share what the people in the communities wanted to talk about with others, even with everything that was going on. Although my primary role on Island Focus is one of the video editors, sometimes I am brought onto location and working on a camera, and that is always very interesting because as an editor, I am sort of trying my best to think a few steps ahead. So trying to actually, in my mind, watch what is being recorded on camera, but also just thinking about what different shots I want to cut to or what kind of B-roll I would like to include. Actually being there does sometimes really help me when it comes time to edit, because I already have an idea of what happened on set and I can already sort of start to plan it as we are there. One location that I thought was just like very interesting to be in was Iolani Palace, because of the history and just how important and monumental that location is. Like seeing all of the paintings on the walls and, you know, the different rooms that we were very lucky to be able to have a look through. It was very like surreal to be in such a monumental place.
So my position with Island Focus is on the actual day of the shoot, I'm the video village supervisor, and I actually just look at the shots, make sure they're good, they're in focus, they're great exposure, make sure everything is recorded, the red light is going on. And I also do the walk and talk segments. Those are always the most fun for me because not everyone goes, but the crew that goes, I think we're really tight-knit. Just getting away from the set. It's more loose, I would say, the shooting style. But I think those are actually the best segments in the actual show. I would say my two favorite moments was the Honolulu Zoo and Sea Life Park. I like animals, so we were shooting at a time when no one was really there. So I kind of had the whole place to myself. I could just go up to the animals, you know, kind of do what I wanted.
When you asked me to be the host several years ago, I was really excited because appreciating Ō'lelo's mission seemed to tie in with the purpose of Island Focus.
Absolutely. Our mission at Ō'lelo to empower and strengthen island voices was why Island Focus was born. The thought of being able to provide a platform for community leaders to speak about the things that they were doing to help out our community, to improve things on the island. It was just one of those things that it was a natural fit. And I think that's why it's been going on for so long, because there's just so many wonderful things that are happening that just need to be expressed. And Island Focus is that venue for members of the community to just come and speak for a few minutes about what's happening in their world and how it's affecting society.
Well, and what I thought was so interesting is that one interview led to the idea of inviting somebody else and somebody else because they were connected with other organizations. I learned so much from everybody, even though I knew them personally. What was your read as a producer?
When we picked our guests, we had looked at business people, nonprofit leaders, government agencies, military, we were trying to really diversify the kind of stories that were being told. And what was really wonderful to see was whenever we'd come to a location, like identify a location, is that there were so many agencies and organizations connected to that one location. It's great to know that on our island, every location does have a support network of organizations and agencies that want to make sure that they survive and thrive.
I appreciated so much that the guests were not only versatile and flexible, but they could speak about a number of different other agencies as well. So there was this partnership, true, authentic partnership that was being shared with the audience.
It really established that Island Focus had a presence in this location and a purpose. It actually was very symbolic of making sure that we established this venue of telling stories, all around the island.
And I appreciate the fact that also our crew learned a lot about the different organizations. The conversations we had at the end were more than congratulating us for a good show. It was like, did you know this happened? And I didn't know that person did this. So it was an overall learning experience for us as well as the guests.
Well, I think in looking back at the 100 shows that we've done, I feel like Ōlelo really served an important part of their mission through this program. And when you think about the 400 plus guests that we've had on this program and giving them the time as well as the production expertise to really capture their impact on the community, I'm very grateful that Ōlelo exists to be able to provide that kind of resource to the community.
And I'm particularly grateful to have been the host.
A fantastic host.
Here on Oahu, we really are about providing access for our community here. It's really a hyper-local focus, which is why, I guess, here we are island focused. Is there information, are there communities, are there things going on that wouldn't necessarily be covered by commercial news stations, for instance? It's our mission to make sure that underserved communities are able to get their voices out. We're trying to make sure that government activities that are going on, that people get to know the things they want to or need to know about. And so the thing that's really great about Island Focus is it really hit a diverse amount of the leaders and just other people in the community and what they were up to, what they did with their lives, what they were doing to make their world a better place. And by world, that starts right here on this island. Because we are so much about creating that access and that community and that commitment to each other, that Island Focus was able to, every episode, reach into another community or 2 or 3 or 4. That access to information isn't just information. It's access to each other's feelings. It's access to each other's families. I think that's where Island Focus really went out of its way to go everywhere it could and to talk to as many people as we could find from as diverse a groups as we could to, again, like, how do we share Ohana with people we might not have met before? The fact that we can take all of this equipment and really create a sense of what that space looks like, even if it is two-dimensional, it's this place where, guess what, a lot of the people watching have never been to. And so now they at least have a taste or a flavor of what that place might be like. It might encourage them to actually go there. Sometimes we were at some very historic locations. I hope that it helped drive people to go say, hey, I want to learn more about it. I want to learn more about the people that are taking care of it. On location, I think the staff, as always for work like this, have to start with a very early day, which, by the way, was prepped all the week before. And so by coming in on a set, you realize this is like the culmination of a whole lot of work. And yet that day still started before the sun came up. And I think that you see the professionalism of our crew, the professionalism of our staff, no matter when they started or how long they're going to be there that day, they are actually doing their job, and they're doing it not only professionally, but in a way that the people that we are encroaching upon are happy we're there. That our relationship with them is actually better when we leave than when we got there.
So we've heard everyone's favorite moments, Lyla, and I think this is our turn, because I wanted to share with you that my favorite moment is more like a feeling. When we step onto a set, I'm always in awe of what I don't know about that location, even though we've researched it, because you discover things when you're on set with the committed people who run the operation. But two, I also noticed that there's so much beauty that we miss in life if we don't just stop and take the time to really look at where we're at. And when we're on location, we get that opportunity. There are people who are helping us to understand what that location does. And I am just always amazed at how beautiful a place is, not just visibly or visually, but also just in its purpose on our islands. And it's really special to me. Like, for example, when we first walked into Oʻahu Church and had the setup, and the echoes were just amazing. Or when we went to Ho'omaluhia, and here we are right up against the ko'olaus with our fantastically large desk, but you just never get over how amazing it is to be on a location appreciating what it is and why we're there. And it's just a feeling that gets overwhelming for a moment. Then, of course, we get into our business, but it's just a beautiful day. I think our crew always leave happy because it's always been an amazing day of discovery. So what's your favorite?
Well, I think you touched on it. You know, my favorite moment of the show is when we're ending and the crew comes together and we have the hugs and we give the high five that, yeah, we did it technically, but we also did it emotionally and honored our guests. I think for me, other favorite moments are the locations where we were at the aquarium, and a penguin jumped, and we were walking in the back, and the penguin jumped in and splashed us. And then we were at Sea Life Park, and the dolphins were making noises, and I giggled too much, so we had to cut that piece out. Every location has a personal memory, the serious part where we're visiting our guests, but also something that was just goofy that happened. And I'm very grateful that there is that combination of professionalism as well as humanism, and we could just enjoy each other as a crew. And I'm very grateful for the fact that I know that they have my back.
And speaking of the crew, we've gotten to hear from them all throughout the show. And I know you have a very special place in your heart for every crew member because they literally do have your back. Every moment during the show, they make sure everything is perfect for all of us who work on the show, as well as for the viewing audience. They make this show an incredibly enjoyable program. I think we're just grateful to have you as a host who really appreciates the work that the technical crew does, and that we've really become kind of like a family in Ohana, yeah?
Most definitely, and the aloha, the respect, the camaraderie again, it's just been a lot of fun. And I feel successful because others have been successful as well. So thank you for the opportunity.
This crew looked very different in the very beginning when we shot at the library, which was our first location, right? But it was something that we all cared a lot about, and it was something that we all wanted to see done.
We've done over almost 400 interviews over the course of 5 years. So that's a lot of people, a lot of communities, a lot of NPOs that we served. And that's kind of what Ōlelo is about in the end.
And that's a special thing, being able to create and do projects like this. The power of a company like this, with its limited numbers and its limited resources, and to create this many installments of a series is special. The great part about this show is the humanity that we get to show and display for not only our community, but the world.
Working on Island Focus specifically, I think there is a very important focus on being courteous and respectful to not only each other in the crew, but with all of our guests. And I think what's really nice is when the guests will, feel that respect and that sort of aloha that we can offer them.
You're all the same. You're on the equal playing field when you come in and you start shooting. It's not like this high, up person and then I'm the camera person. We're all making art together for the purpose of telling a story that needs to be told to advance the voices of Hawaii for the rest of the world. And you don't find that very much anywhere.
If I didn't work on this show, I wouldn't have seen half the things that I was able to see and experience and meet these people. And I lived here all my life, And I think we're always learning. There's always different organizations that's going to be coming up. And I think it's such a great platform for them to share it with us, with the community.
What I've learned from Island Focus and the different stories that many of them shared was that it was so different. And it was so like an eye-opener that I was like, wow, I didn't know that that organization did such things. That's what inspires me about Island Focus and about the leaders and our community and how, wow, that they are.
I mean, we've been all over. We've been on Pearl Harbor, we've been in the North Shore, we've been all over the South here, zoos, museums, and there's so much that Hawaii has to offer, and I hope people get the word.
What really stands out to me are the times when I get to kind of sit back, watch this thing that we've created outside of myself, outside of my body, outside of my current situation, or something that just happens that kind of triggers that in me where I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
I think it hits everyone different. I don't have words for it. It's, wow, 100 shows. That's pretty cool. It's been wonderful, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world this time that I've had on Island Focus.
Mahalo for joining us today on Island Focus. I'm Lyla Berg. I hope you've enjoyed watching our 100th show as much as we've had fun making it for you. On behalf of the Island Focus crew and the entire staff at Ōlelo Community Media, aloha and malama pono. Take care of each other. See you again soon.